In this video, we're going to take a look at how to write an effective thesis statement for an argument-rebuttal essay. So this would be the kind of essay where you're asked to take a position on an issue for or against, and this is going to focus on how to do the thesis statement for that. So an effective thesis statement for that kind of essay is going to have two parts, the stance and the reasons. So the first part is the stance, and that's where you state whether or not you are for or against the position, right? Whatever is being debated. You want to make that stance clear early on in the beginning of the thesis statement, so you want to start the thesis with your stance. And it's good to use language like should or should not in that part of the thesis so that you're very, very clear about which side of the issue you're on. You don't want the reader to be in any doubt about which position you're taking, for or against. All right, so the first part is the stance. That's where you take your position. Then the second part is the reasons for the stance. Often you join those two parts with a word like because that will lead into your reasons. And you want to present 3 or 4 reasons, at least a couple, but usually about 3 or 4 reasons why you are taking this stance on the position. And you want to make those reasons specific enough that the reader can tell what they are just from the thesis statement without having to read further. And you want them to be parallel, of course, so they're easy to read. And you want this whole thesis to be within a single sentence. So we begin with our stance, we end with our reasons. All right, so let's start looking at some examples here. I'm going to give you an example topic question. Should the federal government provide free college for all students in the U.S.? So what I want you to do is read through these thesis statements. I'm going to pause the video for you, read through them, and decide how effective each thesis statement is for an argument rebuttal essay and why. And then when you come back and replay the video, we'll talk about why. All right, so let's pause the video so you can read through these 5 thesis statements. All right, coming back, let's talk about each one. So A is not a good thesis statement because it doesn't take a stance and it doesn't give any reasons. It just says that this is a controversial issue. So it's probably the worst thesis statement up there. It doesn't do either part. All right. B takes a stance. So the stance here is not bad, right? College should be provided for free of charge. That part is okay. And then they do have the because. And they do give a reason, but it's only one reason. It's not enough to develop a full argument. And it's also not a terribly specific reason either. All right, so that's not a good one, although better than A. C, that one is one that might on the surface appear to be good, but it's really lacking. It doesn't take the stance. It just jumps right into the reasons without stopping to say whether it's for or against free college. Now, you might argue that you could sort of deduce that from these reasons, but a really good thesis would just make that very clear for the reader right in the beginning. That would make it more effective. So, you know, the reasons aren't bad, but there's no stance that sort of holds that all together and clarifies the position. All right, D. D is the best thesis statement here. It has a clear stance, right? The federal government, oops, let me just go to that part. The federal government should not provide free college for all students. So that's a clear stance. It's using should not, which makes it very clear which side it's on. And so there's no question what the stance is on the issue of free college. Then we link with the word because to our reasons, and we've got 3 nice, specific, parallel reasons here. Doing so would balloon the federal budget deficit, decrease the incentive for students to work hard in high school, and be unfair to those students who do not wish to attend college. So again, those are three very specific, very parallel reasons. So we have the structure here: stance, because, and reasons. And that's what is going to give you a good thesis statement for an argument rebuttal essay. E, the last one, is just way too long, right? It does take a stance here, but then after that, the reasons are so verbose that it's not unified enough for people to really focus on them. It sort of sounds like a rambling body paragraph rather than a thesis. And how many sentences are there here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sentences. That's way too long. This should be one sentence like D, where you start with a stance, end with the reasons. So E is also quite bad. So if we're looking for our good model here, it's D, which uses the structure we talked about here: begin with a stance, end with reasons, and if you do that, you're going to have an effective thesis statement for an argument rebuttal essay.